It was 3:33 in the morning when I opened my son's bedroom door and saw two figures sleeping in his bed. My heart stopped. It literally stopped for a few seconds while my eyes tried to process what I was seeing. Lucas was there, lying on his side, breathing softly as he always did. But beside him, there was someone else. A second form under the blue Spider-Man covers. I stood frozen in the doorway, gripping the handle so tightly my fingers began to ache. The hallway behind me seemed to have become a black abyss, as if the entire house had disappeared, and only that moment existed, that impossible vision. The figure next to Lucas was bigger, much bigger than a 7-year-old child should be. The covers molded to the contour of an adult body, and I could clearly see where my little son ended and whatever that thing was began. My breathing became irregular. Each breath seemed to make a deafening noise in that silence. Was I dreaming? Had stress finally broken me completely? But no. I could feel the cold of the handle in my hand, the smell of fabric softener from clothes washed earlier, the distant sound of the living room clock chiming the hour. This was real. I took a step into the room. The wooden floor creaked under my bare foot, and for a moment I thought the thing in the bed would move. But no. It remained motionless, just breathing. I could see the covers rising and falling in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Lucas murmured something in his sleep, incomprehensible words like children do. But then, clear as crystal, he said, "He came back." My legs almost gave out, because the voice wasn't coming from my son's mouth. It was coming from where the second figure's pillow should be. That's when I understood they weren't two people sleeping side by side. They were two people sleeping one inside the other. The larger body embraced my son from behind, like a dark cocoon. And as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could see better. The second form wasn't on top of the covers. It wasn't underneath. It was integrated into them, like a shadow that had gained volume. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to turn on all the lights in the house and call the police, the firefighters, anyone who could explain what was happening. But my body wouldn't obey. I was rooted to the spot, watching my son sleep, embraced by something that shouldn't exist. And then the thing turned its head toward me. I saw no face. I saw no eyes. But I felt the gaze. Penetrating. Familiar. A gaze I knew better than any other in the world. A gaze that should have been buried a year ago. That's when I finally managed to move. I ran from that room as if hell itself were behind me, slamming the door so hard the entire house shook. I locked myself in my room and stayed awake until the sun rose, trembling under the covers. Because now I knew that what was happening to my son wasn't just grief. It was much, much worse. To understand what happened that dawn, I need to go back in time a bit. A year before, to be exact, when my life still made sense. I had been married to Daniel for 10 years. He was a history teacher at a public school, one of those teachers children love because he could turn anything boring into an adventure. Lucas inherited that from him. The fertile imagination, the ability to see magic where others see only the ordinary. We were a normal family. We woke up early, had breakfast together. Daniel took Lucas to school before going to work. I worked from home as a graphic designer, so I was always there when Lucas came back, helping with homework, listening to his stories of the day. The afternoons were ours. Lucas and I made cookies, watched cartoons, played in the backyard. When Daniel came home around 6, we had dinner together. Then Daniel would read Lucas a story before bedtime. Always the same routine, always the same ritual. It was a simple life, perfect in its simplicity. Until one rainy Tuesday in September, everything changed. Daniel was coming back from school when a truck lost its brakes going down the main avenue. His car was hit on the driver's side. The doctors said he didn't suffer, that it was instantaneous, as if that made things easier. Lucas was 6 at the time. How do you explain to a 6-year-old child that daddy will never come home again? How do you explain that there will be no more bedtime stories, no more wrestling matches on the couch, no more that deep laugh that filled the house on weekends? I tried to be strong. I tried to maintain the routine. But Lucas noticed. Children always notice when their world collapses. even when you try to hide the broken pieces. At first, he became quiet, very quiet. He stopped talking about school friends, stopped asking to watch his favorite cartoons, stopped asking questions about everything. It was as if a part of him had gone away with his father. The first months were the worst. I cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't see. I worked in the early morning because I couldn't concentrate during the day. The house seemed too big, too quiet, too empty. It was around the 3rd month that Lucas began talking to his father. At first, I thought it was normal, part of the grieving process. He would sit on the bed and tell an empty chair about his day. He would say, "Good night, Daddy," before sleeping. He would leave an empty place at the table during dinner. The psychologist said it was healthy, that children need their time to accept loss, that I should let him process it his way. But then the conversations became more detailed. Lucas began laughing alone in his room, as if someone were telling him jokes. He began asking for 2 glasses of milk at breakfast. He began talking about things Daddy had said, advice Daddy had given, things I knew Daniel would really say. Daddy said you're sad, but that everything will be okay. Daddy said he loves me very much and is taking care of us. Daddy said he doesn't like it when you cry. How could he know these things? How could a 6-year-old child have such wisdom? But I rationalized. Memories, I told myself. They were just memories of things Daniel had really said, resurfacing in Lucas's mind, distorted by grief. Except the conversations began getting more specific. Daddy said you hide the sleeping pills in the dresser drawer. Daddy said you don't want to wear your wedding ring anymore because it hurts too much. Daddy said you dream about him every night. These were things Lucas couldn't know. Things I had never told anyone. I started getting really worried when he began waking up in the middle of the night, always at the same time. 3:33. I would hear footsteps in the hallway, whispers coming from his room. When I went to check, he was sitting on the bed, talking quietly to the air. "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" "To Daddy." "But Daddy isn't here, remember? We talked about this." And he would look at me with those big, serious eyes and say, "He is here. You just can't see him." That's when I began to realize that maybe this wasn't just grief. Maybe it was something much more dangerous. The first time I was really frightened was on a Thursday morning, 6 months after the accident. I entered Lucas's room to wake him for school and found him sleeping with a crumpled paper in his hand. It looked like he had held the drawing all night, pressing it against his chest like it was a treasure. I tried to take it from his hand without waking him, but Lucas opened his eyes immediately, as if he hadn't really been sleeping. "He gave me this," he said, still sleepy, extending the paper to me. Children's drawings are always strange to adults. Wrong proportions, colors that don't make sense, figures that look more alien than human. But that drawing was different. There was something disturbing about it that I couldn't explain. It was our family. Lucas had drawn the 3 of us, me, him, and Daniel. We were holding hands in front of our house like a typical refrigerator artwork. But when I looked closer, I noticed the details. I was drawn normally. Brown hair, blue dress, crooked smile like Lucas always drew. He was normal too, small, next to the maternal figure, holding my hand. But the father figure was all wrong. Daniel was there, in the right position, holding Lucas's free hand. But where the face should be, there was only a black hole. It wasn't that Lucas had forgotten to draw the eyes, nose, and mouth. It was as if he had deliberately erased everything, leaving only a dark void. And the eyes, where the eyes should be, there were 2 black stains that seemed to extend beyond the paper, as if they were too deep for that 2-dimensional surface. "Why did you draw Daddy like this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I didn't," said Lucas, sitting up in bed. "He drew himself like that." "What do you mean, sweetheart?" He took the pencil from my hand and drew himself. "I only drew you and me." I felt a chill. Children have a peculiar way of processing trauma, I told myself. That's all it was. Just his mind trying to deal with his father's absence. But then Lucas showed me the back of the paper. Written in crooked letters, clearly from a 6-year-old child, were the words, He said now he's the one who takes care of me. My throat closed up. Who said that, Lucas? Daddy. He said it last night when he came to visit me. Sweetheart, Daddy can't come visit you. You know that. Lucas looked at me with that serious expression that had become common since the accident. I know he died, Mommy, but he didn't go away. I took the drawing from his hands and examined it again. The letters were definitely Lucas's. I recognized his characteristic way of writing the E backwards and the upside-down R. But the message... Daniel always said that. Daddy will always take care of you. It was his favorite phrase when Lucas had nightmares or when I worried about something. No matter what happens, Daddy will always take care of his family. How could Lucas remember this so precisely? And why choose those specific words to write on the drawing? Lucas, I said, sitting on the edge of the bed. When you talk to Daddy, what does he look like? What do you mean? Does he look the same as Daddy from before? Lucas thought for a moment, biting his lower lip as he always did when concentrating. Not exactly. How is he different? He's taller and darker, and sometimes... Lucas paused, looking at the drawing in my hands. Sometimes he doesn't have a face. My blood ran cold. What do you mean he doesn't have a face? Like in the drawing, he only has eyes, and the eyes are very big and very black. I put the drawing in my desk drawer, along with other important papers. I didn't want Lucas to see it again, but I also couldn't throw it away. There was something about it that deeply disturbed me. That night, after Lucas fell asleep, I took the drawing out again. I examined every stroke, every line, trying to understand what was bothering me so much. That's when I realized the dark figure in Daniel's place wasn't just holding Lucas's hand. It was pulling him away from me. And for the first time since the accident, I was certain that what was happening to my son wasn't just a phase. It was something much more sinister. After the drawing, I began paying more attention to Lucas's nighttime habits. And that's when I discovered the pattern. Every night, without exception, he woke up at 3:33. At first I thought it was coincidence. Maybe he was thirsty, or needed to use the bathroom, or had a nightmare. But no, he would wake up, stay quiet in his room for exactly 15 minutes, and then go back to sleep. During those 15 minutes, I could hear murmurs coming from his room. I decided to investigate. On the third consecutive night this happened, I positioned myself in the hallway, leaning against the wall next to his door. At 3:33 sharp, I heard the bed creak, indicating he had sat up. And then the conversations began. "You came back," said Lucas, with a clear, awake voice. It wasn't the sleepy voice of a child waking up. It was as if he had been waiting for that moment. Silence. "I made the drawing you asked for." Mommy got weird when she saw it. More silence. But there was something in the air. A density, as if the room were full of something invisible. "Do you want me to draw more?" A long pause. "Okay. But what if she doesn't like it?" I felt my heart racing. Who was he talking to? And why did it seem like he was hearing answers? "She doesn't believe you're here. She thinks it's just in my head." I heard a strange sound, like someone moving in the room, but the footsteps were wrong. Too heavy for a child, but with an irregular rhythm, as if whoever was walking wasn't sure how to use their legs. "You're different today," said Lucas. "More real." That's when I noticed there was something very wrong with the hallway temperature. It was getting cold. Not normal cold, but that damp, penetrating cold you feel in cemeteries. "Why are you sad?" asked Lucas. "Is it because of Mommy?" Silence again, but now I could hear something else. Breathing. Slow, heavy, coming from the room. Breathing that definitely wasn't from a 7-year-old child. "You said she would understand, but she doesn't understand." The breathing sound got louder. "Do you want to talk to her?" My blood froze. I wanted to run away, but my feet were glued to the floor. "She's listening. I know she's out there." How did he know? I was completely silent, not even breathing properly. The door opened. Lucas appeared in the crack, looking directly into my eyes. But there was something different about him. His eyes seemed bigger, darker, and there was a seriousness in his face that wasn't natural for a child. "He wants to talk to you," he said. "Who wants to talk to me, sweetheart?" "Daddy. He's here." I looked over his shoulder into the room. It was dark, but I could see the bed, the wardrobe, toys scattered on the floor. Everything normal, except for a darker stain near the window, a shadow that seemed to have its own volume. "There's no one there, Lucas." "There is. You just don't want to see." And then he said something that made my world stop. He said you don't like him now, that you want him to go away. Those were the exact words I had thought about in therapy that week. Words I had never said out loud to anyone, not even to myself. How could a 7-year-old boy know that sometimes, in my darkest moments, I wished Daniel's memories would just disappear because they hurt too much? "He's crying," Lucas continued. "He says he just wanted to take care of us." The shadow near the window moved. Slightly, but enough for me to notice. "Come here, sweetheart," I said, extending my hand. "Let's go back to bed." But Lucas didn't move. He continued looking at me with those strange eyes. "He wants to know if you still love him." I began crying without realizing it. "Of course I still love Daddy. I always will." "Then why don't you talk to him anymore?" Because he's not here anymore." "But he is. He never went away." The shadow approached. I could feel a presence behind Lucas, something big and cold. "He says if you don't believe in him, he'll have to prove he's here." "How?" Lucas smiled. A smile that wasn't his. "He'll leave gifts." The next day, I found dirt scattered in Lucas's room. Black, damp dirt, like what covered Daniel's coffin. Dirt that had no way of being there. The gift arrived 3 days later. I was making breakfast when Lucas came downstairs wearing something that made my world stop again. Hanging around his neck was the necklace Daniel wore every day. A simple silver chain with an anchor-shaped pendant he had received as a gift from his father. The same necklace Daniel was buried with. "Where did you find this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Daddy gave it to me," Lucas replied, touching the pendant lovingly. He said now it's mine. My hands trembled. I myself had put that necklace around Daniel's neck before the funeral. I had asked the funeral director to ensure it stayed with Daniel forever. "Lucas, that necklace was with Daddy. You can't have it." "But he gave it to me. He took it off his neck and put it on mine last night." "That's impossible." Lucas looked at me with that serious expression that had become his trademark. "For you, it's impossible. For me, it's normal." I extended my hand. "Give me the necklace, please." "No." "Lucas." He said if you took it away, he'd get very angry. I felt something cold running down my spine. "Who said that?" "Daddy. Daddy would never get angry with you or me. This one does. This one, not he. This one." As if it were something different from the person we knew. I picked up the phone and called the funeral home. I explained the situation as delicately as possible. Said I had left something important with my husband and needed to know if it was possible to retrieve it. "Ma'am, your husband's grave has been sealed for almost a year. There has been no violation. I can guarantee that everything buried with him remains intact. But the necklace was there, hanging around my son's neck." "Are you sure? Isn't it possible there was some error?" "Absolutely. We have a very strict security system. Besides, your husband was buried in a sealed casket. Even if someone managed to open the grave, which is highly unlikely, it would be impossible to access the interior without specialized tools." I hung up the phone and looked at Lucas, who was eating cereal calmly, as if wearing a dead man's necklace was the most normal thing in the world. "Lucas, I need you to tell me the truth. Where did you really find that necklace?" "I already told you. Daddy gave it to me." "When?" "Last night, when he came to visit me." "What was he wearing when he gave you the necklace?" Lucas stopped eating and thought. "The clothes he wore to sleep forever." My stomach churned. That's how I had explained death to him. That Daddy was sleeping forever. "What clothes were those?" "The nice clothes. The black ones. With the gold buttons. It was exactly the outfit Daniel was buried in." a black suit he only wore on special occasions. How could Lucas know this? He hadn't participated in the funeral preparations. And how did he take the necklace off his neck? With his hands. What did his hands look like? Lucas paused again, as if the question were difficult. Strange. Strange how? Dirty and cold. And they stuck to me. I felt nauseous. Stuck? Like when you put your hands in the refrigerator for a long time and then touch something. This description terrified me more than anything else he had said so far. It was too specific, too detailed to be the product of a child's imagination. Lucas, I said, crouching in front of him, I need you to promise me something. What? If Daddy comes to visit you again, you'll call me, immediately. Why? Because I want to see him too. Lucas smiled. He'll be happy. He said he misses you. Did he say anything else? He said you've changed, that you're not the same person anymore. Daniel always told me that when I was going through difficult times. You're not yourself anymore, he would say. Come back to me. Did he say anything else? He said he wants you two to be a family again. You two. Lucas nodded. You, me, and him. But there was something in the way he said, him, that made me realize the thing visiting my son every night might no longer be the man I had loved. Maybe it was something much more dangerous. That same week, I bought a small security camera and installed it in Lucas's room. I told him it was to make me feel safer, to know if he was okay during the night. You don't need to, said Lucas. He takes care of me. Even so, it will make me calmer. Lucas shrugged, but I noticed he looked at the camera with a strange expression, as if he knew exactly what it was for. The first night of recording showed nothing abnormal. Lucas slept all night. He didn't even wake up at 3:33, which left me both relieved and disappointed. The second night was different. At 3:33 sharp, Lucas sat up in bed. He looked directly at the camera for a few seconds, then smiled and waved, as if he were greeting someone he knew was watching. Then he looked to the side and said, "You came back." The recording clearly showed there was no one in the room besides him. But Lucas conversed as if there were. He asked questions, waited for answers, reacted to things I couldn't see or hear. "She's watching us," said Lucas to the air. Through the camera. A pause. "Do you want to wave to her?" Lucas laughed at something I couldn't hear. He said, "You already know he's here. That you're just pretending you don't know." I felt a chill. As if the thing in the room were speaking directly to me through Lucas. He wants you to stop trying to prove he doesn't exist. Lucas was quiet for a few minutes, just listening. Then he nodded. "Okay, I'll tell her." He looked directly at the camera again. "Mommy," he said, "if you keep trying to push him away, he'll have to take more drastic action." My blood froze. He said he doesn't want to hurt you, but he won't allow you to destroy our family again. And then something happened that made me question my own sanity. The screen went black. It wasn't a camera failure. It wasn't lack of light. It was as if something had completely covered the lens. For exactly 13 seconds, the recording showed only total darkness. When the image returned, Lucas was lying down, sleeping peacefully, as if nothing had happened. I watched the recording several times, looking for logical explanations. Maybe an insect had landed on the camera. Maybe there was some technical problem, but there were no signs of external interference. Besides, there was something more disturbing. During the 13 seconds of darkness, something could be heard on the recording. A low sound, almost inaudible. I turned the volume up to maximum and managed to identify what it was. Breathing. But it wasn't the light, quick breathing of a sleeping child. It was the slow, heavy breathing of an adult, very close to the microphone, as if someone were leaning over the camera. I made an even more terrifying discovery when I began analyzing the recording frame by frame. In the moments before the screen went black, a shadow could be seen forming in the corner of the room. Very subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. The shadow had the shape of a tall person, and it was moving toward the camera. The next night, when Lucas woke up at 3:33, I went directly to his room. I didn't hide in the hallway this time. I opened the door and entered. "Who are you talking to?" I asked. Lucas looked at me with those strange eyes. "To him. Where is he?" "Behind you." I turned quickly, but there was nothing behind me, just the empty wall of the room. "There's no one there, Lucas." "There is. He's right there. He's touching your shoulder." The exact moment Lucas said this, I felt something cold on my left shoulder, like cold, damp fingers pressing lightly against my skin through my shirt. I ran from the room again, but this time I took Lucas with me, because I had finally understood that whatever was visiting my son wasn't just a harmless presence. It was something that wanted more than just to talk. A week passed since the camera incident, and I had made a decision. I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't pretend nothing was happening. If there really was something visiting my son every night, I needed to find out what it was, and I needed to make it stop. That night, I prepared myself. I got a flashlight, put in new batteries, tested it several times to ensure it worked perfectly. I dressed in clothes that would allow me to move quickly if necessary. I left my bedroom door ajar to hear any sound coming from the hallway. At 3:30, I positioned myself in the hallway, but this time I didn't hide. I stood right in front of Lucas's door, waiting. 3:33. The bed creaked. Lucas had woken up. "You're late today," I heard him say. I waited a few minutes, listening to the familiar one-sided conversation, but this time, there was something different in Lucas's tone of voice. He seemed nervous. "She won't give up," he said. "She wants to see you." A long pause. "I know you don't want to, but she's my mother." Another pause. Even longer. "Why are you angry?" That's when I heard something I had never heard before. A low guttural sound, like a growl coming from the room. It wasn't human. Definitely not human. "Don't do that," said Lucas, and for the first time his voice sounded scared. "Please." The growling got louder. "She just wants to protect our family, just like you do." Then Lucas said something that made my heart stop. "Now it's her turn." I opened the door immediately. Lucas was sitting on the edge of the bed, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at something behind me. His eyes were wide with terror. "Run, Mommy," he whispered. I turned and saw. A tall, dark figure was standing in the hallway, right behind where I had been seconds before. It was impossible to distinguish facial features in the darkness, but I could see the outline. The silhouette of a man I knew better than any other in the world. But it was wrong. Distorted. Too tall. Too thin. As if it were a stretched and deformed version of Daniel. The figure didn't move. It just stood there watching me. "Daniel?" I whispered. The thing tilted its head slowly, like a dog trying to understand a command. I turned on the flashlight. The light revealed something my mind refused to completely process. It was Daniel, but it wasn't. The face had his features, but was too pale, grayish, like flesh that had been under the ground too long. The eyes were two black holes, too deep to be real. And he was smiling. A smile too wide, showing teeth that were dark and rotten. "You finally saw me," he said, with a voice that was Daniel's but at the same time wasn't. It was deeper, hoarser, as if it came from a very deep place. My legs failed. I fell to my knees on the room floor, the flashlight shaking in my hand. "I said I would come back," continued the thing. "I promised I would always take care of you. You died," I managed to say. "Death is just a word. I'm here. I'm taking care of our son. I'm taking care of our family." The figure took a step toward the room. When it stepped, I heard a wet sound, like wet shoes on tile floor. "Mommy," said Lucas behind me. "He wants to show you his room now." "What?" "He made a room for himself here in the house. He wants you to see it." The figure nodded, still smiling that horrible smile. "Come," said the voice that was and wasn't Daniel's. "Come see what I prepared for us." Lucas got up from the bed and walked to the wardrobe. When he opened the doors, I saw something impossible. There were no clothes in the wardrobe. There was a staircase descending into darkness. "That's impossible," I murmured. "For you it's impossible," said the dark figure. "For us, it's home." Lucas began descending the stairs. The figure looked at me expectantly. "I won't let you hurt my son," I said, trying to sound brave. The thing's smile grew even wider. "I would never hurt our son. But you tried to separate us. You tried to make him forget me. That I cannot allow." The figure extended a hand toward me. The skin was gray and slimy, and I could see black dirt under its nails. "Come. It's time for our family to be complete again." I looked at the stairs where Lucas had disappeared. I could hear his voice down there, talking to someone. He needed me, even if it meant descending into hell. The stairs were steep and narrow, made of old wood that creaked under my feet. The walls around us were damp earth, as if we were descending through the soil itself. The smell was unbearable, a mixture of mold, decay, and something sweet and nauseating I couldn't identify. The dark figure descended behind me, close enough for me to hear its heavy breathing. Occasionally, I felt something lightly touch my shoulder, as if guiding me in the right direction. "Lucas?" I called. "I'm here, Mommy." His voice echoed from below. "It's beautiful here. You'll like it." After descending what seemed like dozens of steps, we reached a corridor lit by candles. The flames flickered, creating dancing shadows on the earthen walls. It was like being inside a tomb. At the end of the corridor, there was a wooden door painted blue, the same color as Lucas's room upstairs. "Open it," said the voice behind me. I pushed the door. What I saw on the other side defied everything I understood about reality. It was a child's room. Complete, detailed, as if someone had perfectly recreated a child's environment. There was a small bed with Spider-Man covers, identical to the ones Lucas used. There were toys scattered on the floor, books on shelves, even some drawings stuck to the wall. But everything was wrong. The bed was covered by a thin layer of dirt. The toys were corroded and stained. The books had yellowed and torn pages. And the drawings on the wall. The drawings made me gag. There were dozens of them, all showing the same scene, our family. But in each drawing, my face was crossed out with black paint. Some showed a figure in my place, a woman with long hair and empty eyes. In others, I simply didn't exist. "Do you like it?" asked Lucas, appearing from beside the bed. He made everything for me. "Lucas, we need to get out of here," I said, extending my hand to him. "Why? It's cool here. Here we can be a family again." That's when I noticed Lucas wasn't alone in the room. There was another figure sitting on the bed, smaller than the shadow that had guided me down the stairs, but equally disturbing. It was a child, or something that had been a child, pale, with eyes too big and too dark. It wore clothes that looked like they had been buried and then dug up. "Who is that?" I asked, feeling my voice fail. "It's my brother," said Lucas naturally. "Daddy brought him too." "Your brother?" "The baby Mommy lost before I was born." My world collapsed. Years before Lucas was born, I had lost a baby in the 5th month of pregnancy. It was our first child, and the loss had been devastating. We never talked about it to Lucas. He couldn't know. He said he missed our family, continued Lucas. So Daddy went to get him to play with me. The small figure on the bed waved at me. When it smiled, I saw it had no teeth, just black gums. "This isn't real," I murmured. "None of this is real." "It is," said a voice behind me. I turned and saw the dark figure standing in the doorway. Now, in the weak candlelight, I could see it better. It was definitely Daniel, but it was as if he had been reconstructed by someone who only had a vague memory of what he looked like. The features were almost right, but slightly displaced. The nose a bit too crooked, the eyes too big, the mouth too wide, like an imperfect copy made by an artist who had never seen the original. "I built this for us," he said. "For our family. Down here no one can separate us. Down here we can stay together forever. Daniel, if you're really Daniel, you know this is wrong," I said, trying to reach some fragment of the person he had been. "You know you can't keep Lucas here." The thing that looked like Daniel tilted its head. "I'm not the Daniel you knew. That Daniel was weak. That Daniel accepted death. I am what he became when he realized he couldn't abandon his family. He approached, and I could see his skin was damp and cold, as if he were constantly sweating cold water. That Daniel died in the accident, but his love for you was too strong to die with him. So he transformed into something different, something stronger, into something monstrous. The not Daniel smiled. Into something necessary. The small figure on the bed began laughing, a high, childish sound that echoed through the earthen walls. Lucas laughed along, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Now we're 4, said the not Daniel. "A complete family." The small figure on the bed began laughing, a high, childish sound that echoed through the earthen walls. Lucas laughed along, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Lucas, come here," I ordered. But my son didn't move. "He doesn't want to go, Mommy. He likes it here. He likes our new family. You're not our family. You're something that's using his father's appearance." The not Daniel's empty eyes narrowed. "I am all that remains of him, and that has to be enough." That's when I realized the horrible truth. The thing in front of me wasn't Daniel coming back from the dead. It was something that had fed on my pain, Lucas's grief, our memories of Daniel. It was a parasite that had grown strong enough to take physical form, and now it wanted to make that form permanent. "Lucas," I said, looking directly into my son's eyes, "you know I love you more than anything in the world, right?" He nodded. "And you know Daddy really loved you more than anything too?" Another nod. "The real Daddy would never bring you to a place like this, would never keep you away from me, because he knew we need to stay together." For a moment, I saw confusion in Lucas's eyes, as if part of him were fighting against whatever that thing had planted in his mind. "But he said," Lucas began. "He lied," I said firmly. "That thing lied to you." The not Daniel growled, a low, threatening sound that made the candles flicker. "Enough," he said. "Enough talking." He approached, and I saw his true intentions in those empty eyes. He didn't just want to keep our family together. He wanted to keep us here forever. Dead. Like him. "You understand now?" said the not Daniel, approaching slowly. "Death separated us, but it doesn't have to keep us separated." I backed up until I hit the damp earthen wall. Lucas and the small figure on the bed watched me with curiosity, like children watching a show. "Daniel, please," I begged. "If there's still any part of the man I loved inside you, don't do this." He stopped, tilting his head as if really considering my words. "Exist is an interesting word," he said. "The Daniel you loved exists in every memory of yours, in every tear you shed, in every time you missed him. I am made of those things." His hands extended toward me, and I could see they were no longer completely human. The fingers were too long, jointed in wrong places, with nails that looked like they had grown for months without care. But memories and tears aren't enough to keep a family together. For that, I need something more. Substantial. "What are you talking about?" "Your life," he said simply. "Your death will give me enough strength to stay, to take care of Lucas, to be a real family again. And if I refuse?" The not Daniel laughed. A wet, unpleasant sound. "You already came this far. You voluntarily descended into my domain. Down here, you have no choice." I looked around desperately, searching for an exit, but the only door was behind him. And even if I could get past him, how would I find the stairs in the darkness of the corridors? "Mommy," said Lucas softly, "you don't need to be afraid. It'll be like falling asleep." "How do you know that?" "Because he showed me. He showed me what it was like when he died. He said it's like diving into a very deep, warm lake. And when you sink to the bottom, it doesn't hurt anymore." Tears streamed down my face. "Lucas, you don't understand. If I die, you'll be alone with that thing. And he's not Daddy. He never was Daddy. But he knows all the stories Daddy used to tell. He knows all the songs Daddy used to sing. He knows how Daddy used to hug me before bed. Because he took that from your memory," I explained desperately. "He fed on your memories of Daddy and used them to fool you." Lucas seemed to consider this. "Even if it's true, at least I have a daddy, Even if it's a fake daddy, those words broke my heart, because I understood that Lucas had accepted that situation not because he was being fooled, but because the alternative, being without a father, was worse for him. "You don't need a fake daddy," I said. "You have me, and the real memories of daddy. That's enough." "No," said the not Daniel, approaching closer. "It's not enough. It never will be enough." His hands touched my face. His skin was cold and damp, like refrigerated meat. I felt my strength draining immediately, as if he were siphoning my energy through touch. "Shh," he whispered with Daniel's voice. "It'll be quick, and then we'll be together forever." My vision began to darken. I felt like I was sinking, exactly as Lucas had described. A deep, warm lake pulling me down. But then I heard something that gave me strength to fight. Lucas was crying. "Stop," he said. "Stop. Please, I changed my mind. I want my mother." The not Daniel released me and looked at Lucas with irritation. "You said you wanted a complete family." "I do. But not like this. Not if Mommy doesn't want to. She will want to. When she understands it's the only way." "No," said Lucas, getting up from the bed. "I don't want to play with you anymore. I want to go home." The not Daniel growled again. "You have no home. This is your home now." "This isn't my home. My home is upstairs with my mother." And then Lucas did something extraordinary. He grabbed the small figure from the bed, his supposed dead brother, and threw it against the wall. The thing dissolved like wet sand. The not Daniel roared with rage and turned to Lucas. But in that moment of distraction, I managed to get up and run to the door. "Lucas, run!" I screamed. My son didn't hesitate. He ran after me while the thing that had looked like Daniel transformed into something much worse. We managed to reach the corridor, but we could hear the creature coming after us. No longer pretending to be human, just roaring with fury. We found the stairs in the dark and climbed as fast as we could. When we reached Lucas's room, the wardrobe had returned to normal. Clothes hanging, shoes on the floor, no sign of the impossible staircase. But we could still hear the roaring coming from somewhere below us. "We have to get out of here," I said, picking Lucas up. "Where to?" That's when I realized the terrible truth. We couldn't run from that thing, because it wasn't trapped in the house. It was trapped in us. We ran from the house. We got in the car and drove to the nearest hotel. During the entire trip, Lucas stayed quiet, looking out the window as if processing everything that had happened. "Mommy," he finally said, "I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. I knew he wasn't the real daddy," he admitted, "but I wanted him to be so badly." I hugged him tightly. "I know, I understand." We spent 3 days at the hotel. 3 days of peace. Lucas went back to being a normal child, watched cartoons, played with toys we bought at the hotel gift shop, laughed at my attempts to make pancakes on the room's electric burner. There were no more visits at 333. No more conversations with invisible beings. It was as if the thing had finally given up. I began to believe we had won. On the 4th day, we decided to go home. The house was exactly as we had left it. Quiet, normal, no signs of supernatural presences. I spent the day cleaning and organizing, trying to make it ours again. That night, Lucas slept in my room. Not because he was afraid, but because he wanted to stay close to me. I fell asleep for the first time in weeks, feeling truly at peace. I woke up in the morning and went to the bathroom to brush my teeth. That's when I saw my reflection in the mirror, and my world collapsed for the last time. The face looking back at me wasn't mine. It was pale, with eyes too big and too dark. The hair was long and disheveled, as if it hadn't been washed in a long time. And when I smiled, trying to confirm I was seeing things, the reflection smiled back with black, rotten teeth. I touched my face. My skin felt normal under my fingers, but in the mirror, the thing continued staring at me. "Lucas!" I screamed. He appeared in the bathroom doorway, already dressed for school. "What's wrong, Mommy? What do you see when you look at me?" "I see you." "How do I look?" "Normal." "Why?" I looked at the mirror again. The pale thing was still there, mimicking me perfectly. "Lucas," I said calmly, "I need you to be very honest with me. When was the last time you saw me? The real me?" Lucas thought for a moment. "On the stairs," he said. "When you were running after me. And after that? After that you fainted. And when you woke up, you were different." My heart stopped. Different how? Happier. More like the mommy from the drawings he always made. I understood everything in that moment. The thing in the basement hadn't tried to kill me to keep me there. It had killed me to take my place. I had never climbed those stairs, never left that underground room. My body was down there, feeding that creature, while it used my form to live my life. "Lucas," I said, trying to keep my voice calm even as terror took hold of me. "Do you love me?" "Of course I love you. Even if I'm not exactly your mother anymore?" Lucas looked at me with those serious, wise eyes that had become his trademark. "You take care of me. You protect me. You make me feel safe." He took my hand. "If you're not my real mother, at least you're a very good fake mother." Tears streamed down my face, or down the face of the thing I had become, because I understood that Lucas had made the same choice I had tried to prevent him from making with the not Daniel. He had chosen a fake family instead of no family at all. And the most terrifying part was that I couldn't blame him for it. In the mirror, the pale thing smiled at me, and for the first time, I smiled back. Because maybe some lies are necessary to survive. Maybe some fake families are better than no families. And maybe, just maybe, real love can exist, even between things that shouldn't exist. "Should we have breakfast?" asked Lucas. "Let's," I replied, taking his hand. And when we passed the hallway mirror, I didn't look at it, because I already knew what I would see there. And I knew Lucas knew too. But we were a family now. A strange, impossible family built on lies and terror. But we were a family, and that would have to be enough.